Hey, folks, welcome to another episode of Broken Brains with your host, Bruce Parkman, sponsored by the Mac Parkman Foundation, the only national voice on the issue of repetitive brain trauma. In this show, we look at repetitive head impacts from contact sports and repetitive blast exposure to our U.S. military veterans and what these conditions are doing to the brains of these men, women, athletes, and kids, and how it's causing the largest preventable cause of mental illness in this country. Why is this important? Because it's not trained to our doctors, our nurses. It's not, and our kids and veterans don't even know this has been going on, despite the fact that they think that their military training, their combat experience, and their practice in sports is pretty much, harmless because there's no symptoms until it's kind of too late. We reach out to patients and advocates, doctors, researchers, authors, and try to find all the information we can for you to become an informed advocate to take care of yourself. Because again, without this knowledge, you can't make an informed decision, and you must protect yourself and those that you love, or take care of yourself in terms of, being able to get disability or provide the treatment you need to recover. Our guest today, another amazing guest who I have known for a long time, Pat Flatley, is a retired U.S. Army Green Beret, and I can just say badass because I know Pat, and a passionate advocate for innovative treatment solutions for veterans. After years of enduring post-traumatic stress disorder and traumatic brain injury from his time in combat, Pat found limited relief through traditional methods, mostly pharmaceuticals and therapy, which is really all we get. His turning point came when he participated in a groundbreaking study using Ibogaine therapy, which he credits restoring his sense of peace, clarity, purpose, probably saving his life, if you ask me. Since then, Pat has become a prominent voice in the veteran community, sharing his story on various podcasts and speaking publicly about the need for alternative healing modalities. Through his advocacy, he continues to support fellow warriors in finding hope, recovery, and renewed strength beyond the battlefield. Because guess what? Once you take the uniform off, you got to go on, man. You got to find your next thing to do, man. Pat, welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I love talking about this stuff.
It's all good, man, dude. So, tell us a little bit about, give us just the rundown in your Green Beret career, man. When did you start? Where did you serve? And where did you end up?
I started at Devon's. Once I got through the key course, I was one of the 18 X-rays during the Gulf War. They recalled a whole bunch of us ex-infantry clowns and gave us a chance to go SF. So it worked out. And then I went to Devon's, loved it. It was just cool. Devon's was, a lot of skiing, a lot of winter stuff, got a lot of schools, and it's always been great. And then moved to Carson in '94, one of the first guys out there. We actually jumped in to go house hunting, which was pretty epic, if you think about it. It just there were realtors on the drop zone waiting for us. It was a big deal,
No way.
Yeah. I went up to a guy and said, "Hey, I just need a rental car and I'll come see you. Just give me your card and I just need a rental car." He said, "I'll take you to the airport." He got me to the airport and three of us went skiing for the week.
The hell with the house.
Yeah, I'd never skied Colorado. So I wrecked a set of skis that week. It was amazing. 1994 spring break. It was a lot of fun. And then, moved out here. Well, in between that's when the Iraq trip happened. And that's when, the friendly fire incident happened. And I was in bad shape, but moved right out here. I moved to Green Mountain Falls, and my wife and I lived in a cabin, and, that was a good place to recover from,
Right.
So that first 4 years was really great. We moved down to town, but had our kids, and it was great. I absolutely love Temp Group still to this day. It was too fast.
Was that the only group you served in?
Yeah, just tough.
Really?
And, a short stint at SWCC, and that was it. 18 months.
So you did some time in SWCC?
Yeah, scuba school. For
where were you? You were a scuba instructor?
Yeah, that was
down
awesome.
at Key West.
Yep.
Bro, I was just at the scuba facility last month with my wife, or 2 months ago. Yeah.
Well,
when did you teach there?
Right, 9/11. I was there for 9/11.
No kidding.
I left C-110 in July, and I got there, and 9/11 happened. And what a time! It was
Dude.
like And then, you couldn't get a hold of anybody then too. It was like, wow, I wonder if all my friends just went to war, but if
God,
everybody was just taking off and doing the normal stuff, training and getting out there. But I made 8 and got out of Key West pretty quick. So
dude.
got back, took a team. So
Yeah, I
that was
remember, when I was in SWIC, Panama went down. I had just left 7th group, bro, and I'm sitting there in a Burger King reading the paper. I'm like, God dang it! I was out at the SEER committee, doing my thing. So, yeah,
no,
I just
everything was the same with me. I just got out of the 82nd. I was in a bar lifting a beer when it said it on the TV. The 82nd Airborne just struck Panama, and I was like, I was still on leave. Basically, I was on Christmas leave. You think about it. What a
yeah,
shit. Boy, that
dude.
is
You
feeling.
gotta hate missing, and then of course God takes care of you and puts you in all the combat you want to see later on in your life. So
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, next thing you know, I'm riding in a 7-ton into Ramadi going, I don't know anybody in this truck either. How did I get here?
I hear you, man. Yeah, it was funny. I was the first class in that pool, that new pool at Key West that you were. I was the first class back in '87, I think, that went in '87 or '88. I was in that pool, man. It was crazy.
That the old pool, they turned it into a kiddie pool, and it had lily pads and little frogs that spit water. And I'd drive by it and be like, what do those retirees feel like when they drive by there? And they're like, I drowned in that pool.
I was standing there, and so I took my wife in the bill and say, "Oh yeah, this is the scuba committee, man. It's a really cool school." I was, go, and nobody was there, and we end up in the top floor because what I was looking for is all those class photos. Remember how we always took our pictures in each class? Yeah, and they had them up on the walls, and I was looking for mine. And then this guy came in, he goes, "Can I help you?" I go, "What?" Like, my wife, I'm looking for this class. Like, I think I was in 88. He goes, "Sir, you need to leave the building." I'm like, "But I'm a retired sergeant major." He goes, "Nah, you need to leave the building." And we got outside. He was pretty cool. But he said, "Yeah." I said, "Is that the same pool?" He goes, "That's the same pool." And you're getting ready to do some things to it. But,
oh, yeah. I used to take guys, if retirees showed up at the gate and I had time, I'd say, "Hey, jump in the truck, man. I'll take you around." And I met some cool guys. They're showing me where they dug 45 rounds out of the range berm to make weights. And you're like, that is badass, man. And that's just, And then Jack Joplin was there. So Jack and I were good friends. And I would come out of the building, and him and this other guy, Joe Hansen, would lift up their coffee mugs, and that meant lunch beer. So I'd go over there and have a lunch beer with them. And man, it was just, 2 MacSoc dudes. It was awesome. That part was good.
Yeah.
But I mean, living on the island wasn't great for us because we had little kids. That's not a place for kids.
Yeah.
And so we were ready to come back to Colorado. So it was cool. I made 8, and I did get in a little trouble. I whooped somebody down there pretty bad, and it was an issue. And I made 8 anyway. And it was the guy was abusing students and pushing my buttons, and that was like kind of when it started, because I was in Germany. I ate a charge, and right after that, my wife and I went to fest with the kids, and I couldn't be in a crowd. And I was like,
Really?
she's like, "What's wrong with you? You love stuff like this." I'm like, I I mean, fest. You got a beer in your hand. They got the coolest kid rides, and I couldn't settle down. It sucked. And then, I went to the dock in Key West and said, "Listen, man, my temper's off the charts. I don't know why, I just got Key West. I wanted to teach this." One of the guys I was teaching with, we were roommates during language school, and we used to do PT 3 times a day, and now we're at scuba school together. We're in the locker room first week for doing PT together, giving it to the students. And it is like, let's go. This is what we wanted when we were kids. And why would I be angry? Why wouldn't it? It just started like that. It started chipping away at me. And then once I was a team sergeant and all that stuff, I mean, people there now say, "You never smiled, man. You were just always just on or fired up or angry." The younger guys. The older guys knew he, a little more goofy, but yeah, what a couple of bad head injuries will do, And,
So you were in the SIF, right? And you were in 110, Charlie Company. Yeah.
And I think
who's your sergeant major? Was it Rick Lamb back then?
Rick Lamb. Yeah, he took over when I was there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Rick and I were in the Sergeant Major's Academy together. I was, as a matter of fact, while you were there, I was taking the first troops in I took the troops into Kosovo back in 98 or 99. But yeah, Rick is a great guy. But I want the audience to know that, talk a little bit about being in that company. So we have companies that do a lot of close quarter combat. And
Yep.
I mean,
And
how many,
I
you
think
guys
they'll be
train
starting
charges all the time.
nonstop. And that was a bad one with that was there was a building there. It was a old German NCO club from World War II. It's still, and it was our shoot house. So it was 3 floors and a basement. And our troop at the time used rubber strip charges on every door. They just took it as an opportunity. Let's train a lot on charges. And we blew so many doors in that basement and in that, in those floors, and it's concrete around you. And guys were real loose with it, really, really loose with it, just always getting closer and tighter. And you're like, man, maybe we should be moving back. Honestly, that door charge knocks the shit out of everybody in there. But the first time they sent OSHA, after Rick took over, they sent OSHA there. Oh, and then the other is the flat range was inside tunnels. And you got 10, 12, 15 dudes shooting thousands of rounds into these sand berms, and that dust was coming off it and lead and all of that. It's just not good. Even so, and then the door charge thing at that time, my troop blew every door, which that's lunacy. I rarely had to blow doors in real combat, just open them. And, so anyway,
That's a good point.
it really was. And my infantry guys would walk up, slide up, twist the door handle, nod, and it's open. Because if you blow the door charge, the whole neighborhood knows now. And that's where you're going to eat the IED. So changed my mind a lot on that. That and also just that there's kids in every target. So what are you going to do? Are you really going to blow that door charge? Do you really want to do that to those kids, man? Let's just kick the door in. It's usually a piece of junk. And then I would say 85, 90% of it, it was a rural house with, a bunch of kids and women in the front room. The door's open because the crapper's outside. Those kids are coming and going all night. The door's open, and it was open almost every time. You're stepping over women and kids getting in there, but shotguns, there's just kids everywhere. There's 12, 13 of them. I can't live with that. Let's do our best, man. It's just not even wake them up. Sometimes we'd walk right over them with nods on, just stepping over all the kids sleeping on the floor and get the adults were always the males were in the back rooms. So anyway, it was 90% off combat, off what we trained for in the SIF. And people still wanted to do that type of stuff on my later tours. And man, just overcharging everything, it's doing your guys in whether you like it or not, So, and in that company, that was it. There was no other training we did. It was almost all CQB, shooting, and then different scenarios of that. So for 3 years, nothing but door charges, big charges. I was a breacher, and just, flashbangs, everything. So, I even, later, 50 cal would really rock your world if you were too close to a 50 cal. When they made those dune buggies, right? Remember when they cut the roofs off the Humvees and stuff?
Yeah.
You're shooting 50 cal above your head. That little piece of metal would stop a lot of the concussion, but you don't have it there. They took it off. So old Sweener blew my left, Sweener was on the, and I had phones or whatever on, or I had foamies in, but my head was just like, I was like, what the hell is that? Well, a 50 cal from 3 feet away, So there's just a lot of that. And then I was in a couple of IEDs that I got close to over the time, but, you really couldn't train for that. So,
And
anyway,
that's what
Rick,
when I was in when I was in C-37, and I was an RST, right? I was SFARTEC qualified, but I was on the teams, and I used to see those guys go out. We had a big World War II battery called Battery Pratt with 3 foot, this thing was like artillery shell proof. And they would go in there and they would, same thing, right? They'd be blowing doors, shooting guns, bullet traps. And we now know that the exposure factor for being inside with CQB for those explosions like 5x what you eat when you're out on a range, right, in the open. So you
True.
think that you train for 3 years in an enclosed environment, and not just in a house, bro, like in concrete tunnels where that exposure is going back and forth, and that's a lot,
Yeah, the first time I went on one of
eat.
the SEAL ships, their training ships, and walked around, I was like, oh my, with Ditra, we got to go into
Yeah.
Del Bonte or whatever that ship is. I was like, they're blowing charges in here, man. This has got to be heinous. And all
No,
that steel and how it's bouncing off, and even the metal, I'll bet that is like a bass drum, and yeah, we should have. I don't know what else they could do though, because at the time, OSHA showed up. This was really kind of funny. The OSHA showed up and put all these sensors on us, and we blew the door, and it was my cell. We blew the front door. We went in. We did like a quick 2 rooms, and they're like, stop, get out of the building. And we get out of the building. They're like, they put like yellow tape. They're like, this building will never, no one can ever go in this building again. And, we were like, we used to spend the whole day in there, I mean, you know how loose it was? The school was maybe 300 yards away, and we're blowing the main door on that thing all the time. Well, the kids are out there,
could they hear it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No question. I mean, it was on Panzer, ba ba ba, boom, ba ba, Yeah, those kids grew up, But so the OSHA said no more of this. So our shoot house is gone, and everybody's pissed off. And they're like, well, maybe they just kind of helped us out, saved us.
Yeah.
So he built one of those facilities like you see with the big exhaust fans and everything. It's beautiful, rubber floors, everything. And they put this stuff back on us again once it was done. The same team. Well, I don't know the same team, but I was the breacher again. And we went in, and as soon as we blew the door, they said, get out of the building, get out of the building. So even that, with the exhausts and everything, the ceilings had these giant fans. No, you're taking too much. We'd be doing door charges inside and all that. So, you had a lot of 10, 12 years of that where guys were, and there's a good reason for the old strike shoot houses with the catwalks, with the opening at the top, so at least it breathes off pretty quick.
Check. Yeah.
That might saved our butts and entire houses.
Yeah, I built that cephalic course for 10th group back in the day because I was one of the few guys that had been. I had a whole bunch of guys in the company that had been in the CIF, and so we put that course together, and they built that shoot house, and yeah, it's a different environment.
4 or 5. Now they got a bunch of stuff, and I don't know. Something? I tell these guys it all the time. I say, listen, there's a reason why the old guys said, you know what, this CQB crap is stupid. Let's go train somebody. And a big one that changed me. No shit. This was in the middle of the street in Hawija, Iraq. We had 2 CAG dudes that were working people in our town, and they didn't have an assault force or anybody nearby. They were just off on their lonesome working stuff. And they would show up and say, can you kick a door? And I had 9 infantry guys, and then my team guys are around. And we'd blow on a door all the time. Doug would go to, and we'd hit doors for him. And then one night I was like, man, I can't believe you don't have anybody nearby. And he was like, Pat, a monkey can kick a door, man. That's what I need. I need a monkey can kick a door. I just need someone to kick the door. I need that guy inside, And I was like, wow, what happened to this damn monkey? Holy shit. And I'm never going to be anyone's monkey ever again. It was like that next time he came and asked, I said, this one's going to cost you, man. I want a bunch of C4 and flashbangs. I don't have it. And then, the next time, that's what I wanted, that 36 commando mission. I want Kurds to hit the door. And the other big one, not just him saying that. At first I was furious. At first I was
right.
like, bag. I wonder. But when I'm driving home that night, I was like, that guy just taught me what I needed to be taught. He's right. Find someone else to kick these doors, because while we were doing CQB one night, we got to the back room. It was a hallway, and it turned right. My medic kicks the door. I follow him. He jumps back and pushes me out of the room, turns around. He's pushing me backwards and screams, no, no, no. And I'm like, go, go, go. And he's like, no, no, no. There's a leper in there. And it just was like, you mean like biblical shit? It was like, unbelievable shit.
Wow.
You're like, holy shit. And he did his medic rotation at the leper colony of Louisiana.
So he actually knew what a leper looked like.
Thank God. Thank God. I guess it was, I got a little glimpse, but it didn't look good. You know, he was in the advanced stage, and we would have all burst into that room, you know, and that was the one where I'm like, yeah, find someone else, you know. What?
Dude, right?
Let's let the locals do this, especially if something goes bad. You know, if there's a shooting of any type, you know, if the rounds go through the wall, it hits a kid, it's on you. So
Right.
the quicker you can get away from doing it, you know, the better. And it wasn't as fun as people think. You know, it was stressful. I mean, I like to talk about it. I like to say, yeah, hell yeah, it was awesome. We took down towns and stuff, but you know, during it, I was a wreck, man. You know,
No.
you literally lose your cookies afterward every time if you're in charge, because you have so many frying pans going at once, and then once it's like, we got them, let's get off the objective, and you just like, throw up real quick. All right, let's get home. You know,
Start planning for the next one.
Yep. And I was glad I didn't have, you know, once I was done doing, and then the last one, I almost got shot. A dude, man, I looked down the barrel of an AK. So one of the dudes took him out. So hand to hand, just knocked the AK down, elbow struck him, laid him out. One of the infantry kids, and saved him. And you know, it was you're like, all right, he's gone long enough, man. You know,
Yeah.
I pulled that door open and that guy was on the other side with an AK. You know, you're like, it could be your number. So that 36th Commando next time, when the SIF did come, they were still wanting to kick doors, of course, right? Because they hadn't been over there yet. So I made a deal with Darcy that I need 2 months, because since it was a seven-month mission, I need the first 2 months and let them do unilateral missions and kick some doors, and get it out, get the piss out, you know, and see that it's not great. It's better to teach. It's just, and you know, I mean, guys still want to do it, of course, but yeah, I was kind of, then, you know, also the door charges in combat. When we were in the SIF, Rick got us, we got to go out to Zerbst, which was an old Russian air base, and we wrecked that place. It was fantastic. When you would blow a charge, 3 floors of windows would break above you and come raining down. It was a real reality. Like, this is real shit. And then when you blow charges into the hallway, you'd see the whole stairwell crack, because it's cheaply made by the Soviets. You know, the whole stairwell would break. And you're like, whoa, there's more to this. You know, the whole wall could fall on you, things like that. So that was a really, really good lesson, you know, for all that there's also the hazards around you. We blew one in Romania, and the whole roof slid off. It was slate and slid off. And luckily we were underneath, and it just all broke on the ground. We're like, oh my God.
From a door charge. Dang.
Yeah. Yeah. Remember, we build, you know, American buildings are little.
American buildings staying there, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then also it's the same with the door charges inside. If you know, it's going to ring through that building. And then also later on at DITRA, learning about chemicals, going, I would have threw a flashbang in here for sure. You know, there's a couple little you know, it looks like a kid's set in that spot. You can make bot with just a couple of vials, you know, or something like that. And I was like, we'd never covered this in the SIF. We should have probably every month touched on a few of those, you know?
Yeah.
So it was dangerous. No matter how you slice it, it was going to be dangerous, you know? And I think the amount of people we lost in the beginning too, I think people started to be a little more serious about it too, you know, just maybe be open to changing tactics a bit. You know, it's just leaders recons, stuff like that. You know, I remember trying to tell a captain, no leaders recon on this. You got to roll on it. You know, you got to roll on it. They'll know. And them not listening several times, like three times in a row. You're like, you're going to keep burning these targets. And then sooner or later, one of them's going to read you and get that recon team, you know? So
yeah, the book changes when you're actually in combat, bro. I mean, that book gets ripped up.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, you know, honestly though, like the old what Hal used to always say, what makes you high speed? The basics, you know? what makes you high speed? The basics. And I think that's, if you look at all the guys that really did well in a big gunfight, they had basics. They were, just the basics. Really good with a gun, really good with basic patrolling, building, climbing, O courses, stuff like that. They could just move and shoot combat. I really think that. And, especially machine gun guys. The SF guy average doesn't shoot a machine gun all that much or change cans on the run,
Right.
and the guys that did really good could. So I always like to have the infantry kids on there because that's,
yeah, they're carrying a machine gun.
Well, not only that, if you got like the 50 or the 240s, I would come out to my vehicles and they'd be like, "We going tonight, Sarge?" You're like,
yeah.
I think we are, man. We're all ready, man. This is like 9 a.m. Like we're ready. Their guns are ready. Everything's cleaned up, ready to go. They've got nothing else to do. I think that's the one thing I teach all the younger SF guys is go get an infantry squad. If you got to shave and get a good haircut to impress that BC and that CSM, do it. Because there is nothing better than having 9 little badasses. Just, and you don't have to yell at them. You don't, and yeah, they goof up and it's funny, but just, I can't say enough about it. Most of them ended up in SF, and that was the best time of my life. Like, just for operations, just leading those kids was incredible.
How many combat tours you end up doing?
I only did 2 shorts, and then I did because remember we shot down to Iraq for a week or 2 when that shoot down happened, and then my first one was that 5.5 months, and then the third was 7. Yeah, but even then though, it's kind of funny. I went out of PDSS, and it was like a gigantic. Just a gigantic gunfight shit going on.
On a PDSS?
Oh my God. How did it end up like this? We were like, how did I'm with, and I don't care if it was with my guys, but going in with a bunch of dudes you didn't know, and the 36 Commando, they had 4 ADs in the parking lot before we rolled that night, and I'm like, it was, yeah. I think the scariest thing about it was, while driving there, they gave me a Claymore bag with a metal plate for my ribs while I drove in this Nissan truck that only did 45 miles an hour. All the way, we went through Fallujah, the Ramadi, and then that night we rode in at 7-ton Marine trucks. The whole city was just, shoot. And once we got up on the road, they just stopped shooting. Like, are they reloading? What the, what's going on? Like, why did they just ease off and back up? But, I think that they knew here comes the reinforcements, time to run, yeah. So there was more eerie then, it was like, I can handle it if you're shooting, but when are you going to start? So yeah, that was ugly night. The first time I saw a minigun light off too, it was like, holy shit, into a car and just, wow. All right. I got to make sure the right guy's on that thing,
I bet, man. Gosh. I mean, you've seen a lot, bro. When did you retire?
07.
07. So yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you got.
When I was an acting sergeant major over there, I came back. I broke my back in Baghdad, another TBI. That was probably my 11th. And when I came back, the docs were just like, dude, you're done. You offered me first sergeant, and then, it was just, there was no way. The docs were just like, look, man, you're going to be in a wheelchair. So that's no question if you just keep doing what you're doing. And they were right. It sucked. It really sucked because I didn't want to get out, but the deal. And not only that too, the temper thing and the headaches and the, back then it was in the beginning was, headaches were really getting me every day. Bad
Really?
migraines, and the, dizziness, crazy. Cause and also I went to the doc. I said, doc, I get dizzy all the time now. And I've never been dizzy in my life. I don't know what it's like. Like maybe I had the bed spins when I was drunk when I was a kid once, but I don't get dizzy. I don't know what it's like, my spatial awareness or whatever. And now when I roll and try and do jujitsu, I get dizzy. The guy's like, well, before you were kind of a freak and now you're more normal, and that's the answers I'm getting. And I'm like, that's not an answer I want to hear, you know?
Right.
And that's kind of throughout, right when I retired, I did, I went for TBI clinic in DC, 9 appointments, and then they lost all the paper. And it was stupid
What?
stuff like square blocks and round holes and stuff. It wasn't worth
Mm,
going. And
man.
that they never did an MRI, never nothing, just, yeah. And then it took me 13 years before I got my TBI rating. It's 2020 before I got it.
Really? So when you
Yep.
got out, you went to the TBI clinic. Did they give you any consideration disability for the head trauma, TBI, any of the SIF, the 11
No,
TBIs?
migraines. That was
Huh?
it. They said migraines. They gave me
Migraine.
10% for migraines, and then yeah, it wasn't. I didn't get 100% permanent total until 2020, and I had 11 TBIs on record, 3 fractured
Wow.
vertebrae, 2 bone shoulders. My eye got messed up, and my left ear got blown out. Uh, yeah, and I had a fight for 13 years to get that 100% permanent total. I was bedridden for 5 months that year that I got it. Those shit bags, man. They just, they
Yeah.
really do suck balls, man. It's, and
Yeah.
my doc, I had an army doctor. Um, he was an ex-army doctor. His dad was an army doctor. His grandfather was an army doctor. His son was an army doctor. Is an army doctor. He gave me his own phone number to, if you have issues, Pat, you call me because you know us and we don't bitch. Those doctors and nurses are like, I love this guy. He's busted up and screwed up, and he doesn't bitch that much. And he retired, and that really, but during that time I had him, which was we were trying everything, and he was helping, but he would change the subject a lot too because I think the VA just told him, look, just change the subject when they ask about TBI because we don't have an answer, and they were just pumping me full of all these different drugs. I'd go to a psych, the psych would say, take this drug, and then my doctor would prescribe it, and it was hell. It really, and then it got worse. I would have been better without any other drugs. That's for sure, you know. But even my last trip to Afghanistan, I went as a contractor a couple times. Um, there was a bunch of us in a room, and everybody had like 6 meds on their table. Yeah,
Wow.
every XSF, CAG, DevGru guy, Ranger, and everybody had a bunch of meds for different things. And you're like, this is just, you know, it's not. I the only time I saw meds like that was, the elder, you know, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just never really
N- The
that.
bags.
Who has
Yeah.
6 pill bottles? Who travels with 6 pill bottles?
No. No,
So,
man. What
and
was
now I'm
the
down to one.
symptoms? Yeah,
Yeah.
what were your symptoms like? What were you like when you started noticing beside the headache? What about the were you angry and I
It's
mean, what were you
more than
going through, man,
it
that
goes
made
straight
you
to
get
rage.
focused on this?
There's no like brew where you just let stuff go. I immediately lose it over everything. And it just got worse and worse. And then pretty soon it doesn't matter what you do. I got an incredible house, been married 33 years. My kids are, perfect, never been in trouble. It was so awesome. And I would wake up and just be like, oh, fuck world, this is bad. This sucks. All I would just focus on horrible shit. And then it graduated to all I would do it was like a TV commercials. You just keep changing it. It's all the worst things I've ever seen in my life. And I couldn't get off it. Like saw a dead kid, couldn't get off it. Just could not, get past it. I didn't hurt the kid. I would definitely hurt the person if I found him, but it would just hurt me, man. It just come back. And I knew it when I saw the kid because I was already heading that way from, 94 never sat right with me, and nobody that was there wasn't good for us. And, um, with the shoot down, it was also the fact that they screwed us that, well, no one got trouble. That's another thing. And they basically lied about a lot of it. And there was also a point where to see higher that effed up, if so the shoot down happened and everybody higher just lost their cool, and the whole incoming chain of command and outgoing chain of command got slaughtered, just got killed.
Which
So
which which shoot down was this?
It was 1994,
Okay.
when Robinson and Barkley got killed.
Huh.
So right before we came to Devens. So it was not, April 14th, 1994. Uh, the Suluru and I were getting on the birds, and then 5 dudes were getting on the other birds, and they bumped us off for VIPs to do this handover. And they flew off, and 2 F-15s came in and shot the birds down, shot the helicopters down.
Oh, wow.
And it was bad. Like, because well, first of all, we just lost our own chain of command, so that was brilliant. And then they had a
Sure.
major that was a staff guy, and he just sat in a chair, I guess, and was catatonic, which is fine. You know what I mean? He just lost every friend he had, and now all the guys he worked with for years just got wiped out, and it did him in. And then my captain took charge, so took charge of the whole country. So that was
Man.
badass. Yeah, and that's something to focus on. That dude just stepped up, and it was funny because I remember listening to them on the radio, and they were like babbling, and he's just like, yeah, they're like, you will not go to the crash site, you will stay put, and he was just like, get a vehicle, yeah, you're 8 hours, we're going, and so 6 guys headed to the crash site, secured it, and then the rest of us waited. So they were supposed to get birds down to move us to the crash sites. The original job was CSAR, Combat Search and Rescue.
Yeah.
So we were sent down to plus up the security because Saddam said he was going to kill a Westerner. He said he would give 10 grand to anybody who could kill a Westerner. So we had this house down in Baghdad, down in northern Iraq, and we went down there and stayed, and then it happened. So that followed out there. So yeah, just getting everybody out was a shit show. PJs forgot the body bags, so it was fucking wicked. If they brought 12 for 26 bodies, and I knew probably 18 of the people well. The door gunner was a little buddy of mine. He's going to go SF because we were going on patrols with him. Same crews. It's just, you imagine the dream. As a young E5, I was an E5 or I was an E5, and Suluru's my sniper partner. We're flying.
Suluru.
So, if you ever wonder why he's angry, that's one of them.
Sue's very angry. Yeah.
But that was his second. That was his second friendly fire incident. So I'll just never forget that as long as I live. Like him saying, I said, man, this sucks, dude. He goes, Flathead, if you're gonna ever do this job for any amount of time, man, you're gonna have to get used to the idea of picking up your friends. He was right. It was fucked up. And as bad as it was already bad. So you can only imagine. Then the Air Force shows up and these birds, it flies right over us. It keeps going. And we're like, oh, we need to get to the crash site. Like, we got too many people on the helicopters. So they brought all these extra people. They brought 2 extra colonel on each bird. And then each one had an E4 radio guy. None of them knew how to talk on a radio. And wow, once they saw their first torn apart, burned dead body, they couldn't even speak. They were like,
Wow.
And so then, transmissions are garbled. And then, if you can believe this is just going to sound absolutely mind blowing. Right about in the middle of it, Eddie Fay just reminded me of this. Eddie Fay. Right in the middle of the mission, they called down. They were like, hey, the president's listening. Clinton, you need to change your call sign, because our call sign was body punch.
Body punch?
Yeah. So they wanted the middle because there's bodies. They wanted us to change the call sign in the middle of the mission.
No.
Yeah, so it was a mess, man. It was just, and then once they were flying to us, then they ran out of bags quick. So we were just unloading body parts, from the choppers, and then trying to get them set up, like trying to, and these are your friends, man, and it was like trying to just as gently as you can take this and set it down and try and get the foot there and try and, it's wicked under headlamps,
Yeah.
and yeah, no consideration for us whatsoever. Those people were fucking morons, honestly. The way I would have treated a guy if he came back from that, and it's kind of funny too, administratively, because the day or two after, our Sergeant Major flies in, and I'm up on the roof with Sue. We do sniper protection whenever choppers come in, and He's like, Pat, get down here, you know. I get down from this ladder. He's like, sign your NCOER.
You never even see me.
There you go, you know. And he leaves, you know. And I'm like, all right, cool. So, well, I guess I probably should have said this too. This goes to the PTSD thing. 6 months before this, my brother killed my dad and killed himself because of a priest thing.
Good.
So it was 6 months before the last time, and I was in Turkey when it happened. When they handed me the phone, and it was like, so now 6 months later, this happens, you know. And about 3 days after the NCOER incident, Bruce Hoover flies down or whatever. He's like, hey, Flatley, you're flying home with me. And I was like, well, why, sir? Because now, you know, why wouldn't I stay with the guys here? He's like, I don't know. You just grab my gear. So I grab my gear, and now I fly home with all the best buddies, all the dudes that are taking the bodies back, you know. And they flew us in a chopper up. I had to secure the machine guns, all the 60s, and it was skin on them. It was heinous. It was heinous. So we had everything. We fly up to Turkey and get on a C-130 and center point everything. You know, we're just flying out. It was just brutal. Just, you know, the best friends of all the dudes there just crushed. You know, just see your friends that hurt. Fucking worst. But I land and I'm like, all right, well, here's what happened. My mom died. That's why they're bringing me back. You know, so I'm sitting there fucking suffering. I walk into Sergeant Major's tent. Same guy that told me my dad, my brother were dead. He goes, Pat, you got to sign your NCOER. I fucked it up. And I'm like, you know,
God dang. I used to hate those things, dude.
I just sign it. I'm like, all right, you know, and he's like, hey, you're going to have to do a eulogy. Well, I was like, you know, so for Paul. And I'm like, yeah, great. And then two dudes are right there. You know them. You know one of them really well. And they're rough. And he's like, they're going to take you out for a drink or something. And they'll keep an eye on you, help you out. They're the two roughest dudes in freaking Tents Force. So, of course, we go out and got nuts. And, oh, boy, I choked an Air Force guy and got so drunk. You know, just don't let dudes like that come home and just go to a bar. You know, if you want to take them over to the GB club and lock the door, that's a better idea. You know, drink them up, put them in the tent, but don't let them go to an Air Force bar the night after the Air Force has killed all their friends. So yeah, it was kind of dipshitish, you know. And then
hey, good move, dude.
Yeah, all of it. It's like I'm just waiting for a field grade, you know. But yeah, so it just all of it was handled really poorly, you know, and shit, you know. So yeah, once I got back from that, they were like, hey, go to Carson. So that helped. You know, that helped a lot.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny too. When I walk into formation, there was a bunch of new guys there at Carson. And they're all like, hey, new guy, you're not on the scuba team. I was like, I might be. I'm like, hey, new guy, you know, you're not on the scuba team. Guy. I might be, you know. Yeah.
Dude.
And then the battalion sergeant major was like, hey, Pat just got back from that stuff, you know, just swing by and shake his hand, man, you know. So that was pretty funny. These dudes are all like,
new guy. So here you are, years later, you're retiring. And you got, so 94 is there, you know, then you got, you know, multiple combat tours. You got all these TBIs. You've got 3 years in a SIF blowing shit up inside concrete bunkers, man. You know, and you don't get any consideration, you know, from the VA, right? I mean, it's like, and this is what I want people to understand is like, we're not, the VA is just not trained in this. And we got, not now that they're learning a little bit about it and they've got codes, it's either too late for too many men that aren't here anymore, or that it's too late for a lot of people that are out there suffering in silence, because most of these people, except for the NICO and the TBI clinics, they're not even aware that what you went through impacts the brain and then impacts mental health. And so how did you, what was your low point? And then how did you start fighting back? Because you have made an amazing recovery for, you know, representing, you know, what a lot of our, you know, bros, you know, been through, man.
Yep. So low point, I was at Black Forest Fest, and yeah, we were listening to blues music. There was hot rods everywhere. It was not too crowded, you know, it's super nice crowd, having a great time, you know, listening to a blues band, you know, it's just, me and my wife and F-35 went over and cut a turn, man. The night was in the woods, like running down the street. Fuck. Like, oh boy, because it just kept happening. And man, just scared the shit out of me. It's like, I'm a pretty lethal guy, man. I'm a boxing kid. I love all that shit since I was a little kid. I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't want to hurt anybody that doesn't deserve it. And what if somebody pushed my buttons while I was in this mode or whatever? You're like, I just lost control somehow. So scared the shit out of me. And then my dog died. I got a dog. He's 16 years old. I say, get a dog. Okay, cool. He was next to me at all times. He always woke me up during nightmares. And he died. And I went in the free fall. Just about that time, I went and had surgery. Finally fixed my back. And they fixed it. And I knew I was fixed when I woke up. And I never wanted another painkiller. And I hated those damn things, but they had me on them for 10 years. And I'm trying to and my doc knew I hated them. He'd say, but sometimes you got to just eat one because the pain is going to kill you and drive you crazy. So it could have been that too. And it could also now, before I used to think it was just the pain, but it could also be the painkillers. So after that surgery, once I was off the painkillers and everything, I was like, I'm in bad shape. I can't blame it on pain and painkillers and all of a sudden I'm just really in bad shape. And I met a SEAL. There's a SEAL buddy of mine. He pushed me, just wouldn't stop about me going to vets. Or he was trying a bunch of different things. Because the SEALs had about 10 different things going already,
Yeah,
and
the SEALs take the lead in a lot of this stuff for sure.
They did on this healthcare thing. They had a lot of guys killing themselves too, and they're quietly, no one's talking about it. It's sad, so let's not talk about it. And so, yeah, he pushed me towards vets, and had the call of my life. Lori Camper from vets just was like, described everything. It's just like, here's what happens when you get angry. Here's what happens during the day. Here's what happens. You can't get your brain off that stuff. Here's what happens when you get in the car. Here's what happens, here's what happens when you have nightmares. And here's what happens right after. And I'm like, holy cow. She's like, I couldn't believe it. Everyone else was way off. And it was like, wow, all right. And she asked me to volunteer for the study. So I was like, I got nothing to lose now. Just, like when we lost Billy Howell, right?
Yeah.
You never thought he'd done that, right? I was with him the last weekend before he left for combat. Me, him, and Kelly, and Greg, Sweener went out to Johnny's and got hammered. One of the best drunks I've ever had in my life. We were drinking beer and just laughing like idiots, just we had the most fun time, and then the next day I helped Bill with his fence out at his house. And the next time I saw him was in the airfield, and he's looking through me. His eyes were just, I was incoming, he was outgoing. They'd just been in 100 gunfights or whatever in Samara. They're just, the whole team was just staring through me. Like, I couldn't believe it, how bad they looked. They looked like they'd been through hell and back. But Bill, Bill was starting to chill out. Over the next 2 days, we had a lot of time to talk. And, he's not a guy that would kill himself. He's not a guy, his wife made plenty of money. He, was a very resourceful guy. He was about to go do the things he wanted to do. The rage. So the rage, just that 1 second of bad ideas, right amount of alcohol, the rage hit him and killed him. And
yeah, he was an amazing guy.
Yeah. And out of the 13,
I liked him a lot.
That was probably 5 of them. It's just that they're losing their grip and they're angry and they don't know why and they don't want to hurt anybody. And so they do themselves. It's freaking horrendous. And
I spent a night with him. I spent the night with him in in Afghanistan. He was running the I think it was the commando schoolhouse or something. It was out by the old palace. And I was doing something and ended up, he was like, hey man, why don't you stay tonight? I'm like, hey, you got beer? It's Afghanistan. And he said, I don't think we even had, I think he had any, but we sat there. He just showed me, hey, this is the bunker. If we get incoming, man, just sit over here, man. And we stayed up that night and talked. And he was He's a really good guy, man.
Yeah.
I was really broken. I was sorry to see him go, dude.
And even that too, you know, like when I was doing my nightly report and I get the report, you know, and Doug just called them and said, listen, don't send this out yet. Pat Flatley's out right near me. I'm going to go tell him myself. Don't do it. And they said it out. I got it in my report. So, fuck, you know. But Billy, Sweener picked me up. We went to Mark Hilliard's house. He had a bunch of Coronas. We sat in a room and, man, I put down about 30 Coronas, man. And fell asleep on the floor face down and got up. Was like, I'm going to go kill a bunch of bad guys. You know, I'm going to freaking wreak havoc. And, you know, then about, I don't know, 4 or 5 hits later, you're like, I don't feel any better. You know, you're like
Right.
kicking that guy through the wall, although it was a little bit satisfying, is not going to get me better. You know, so I kind of had a lot of the eggs in that basket. Like, I'll get in combat someday and I'll make all this right. You know, I'll feel better about Iraq. I'll feel better about everything. Man, much to my chagrin, you know, that you're like, wow, that didn't help. And what's next? So, yeah. So anyway, when Lori called me out and got me to go to vets, and I was terrified. I was in bad shape, man, and I just couldn't keep it together at all. But even my wife and kids were like, hold on, you're gonna get in a plane and fly to California, and no one gets beat up on the plane. No one gets beat up in the airport. And then you're going to get in a cab or something, right? And no one's going to get beat up in traffic, you know? You're going to get to the, you know, and I was like, I got to do it. So we're just at that point. And I got to the airport. I'm coming down the escalator, and there's some type of holiday going on because there was about 200 people in full Arab dress in the airport. Yeah, the mirrored shades, the headdresses, everything, that. Holy shit. You know, I run outside. I'm hiding behind this pillar at the airport. Yeah.
The big bad Green Beret. I hear you, man.
I just didn't want to, you know, karate chop somebody. You know, you're like, excuse me, sir, I'm having a water shot. You know, it's just, you know, just the way they're dressed and everything, and the smells and everything. It was like, good Lord, man, I'm back in the Middle East, and I just don't want to be like, no. And so I got to Stanford, but it was kind of coolest speech ever, though. Trevor said, this is cool. So I called Lori. I said, listen, I'm flipping out. I'm hiding over here in the airport. Can you get an Uber? I don't know what an Uber is. I never, you know, I haven't left the house in a couple of years. You know, not really Uber or anything. So she's like, dude, can you see any cabs? I'm like, I'm not sure there are any cabs. I see these Uber things, you know. And then she's like, here, let me call Trevor. So she calls to Mexico, and I'd never talked to Trevor yet. Maybe, you know, I had talked to him once about going down. And he was like, listen, man, fuck the study. Don't worry about anything, bro. I know where you're at right now, okay? Here's what we're going to do, man. We're going to send someone up there to get you, and I'm going to bring you down here and treat you. I'm going to make you better. No one ever said that. No one. 13 years, no one ever said, I'm going to help you with this head thing, you know? Honestly, like the TBI thing, you're on your own. You know, it's exactly how I felt the whole time. And once he said that, I was like, man, I'm going to man up, man. I'm going to man up. I'm going to man up right now, man. I'm going to, you know what? I'm going to get in a damn cab and I'm going to go to Stanford, you know, because if it kills me, then and they find something out, you know, whatever. But if I just kill myself like everybody else, then we're getting nowhere, you know. I'm getting into study. So him saying that, though, meant everything. Just because I hadn't heard it yet. I'd never heard anybody say, hey, man, you know, we're going to get through this. It was just like, oh, here, try this.
There's hope.
Here, yeah. So, yeah, with Stanford, and man, it was tough because they were like, hey, can we film this? You know, I was giving interviews. I was like, the shit I'm about to say is heinous. You know, I saw some ugly things, and I don't want to hurt you. I mean, I've had psychs tap out, you know. We're like, I can't do this. You know, you're like, yeah, I know, I get it. So I remember the woman there said, I will, she was, look, I got an army of psychs to help me. We're good. So, and she was like, can we film it? I was like, yeah, film it. You know, I'm broken. Just trying to talk about all of it, the most heinous stuff, and got through it. And then they had to do a bunch of tests and stuff like that. A couple of days of it, and then a hour-long fMRI on my head, and then a brain scan, all these other things. I would never tried any of it, you know. And it was really cool. They had an African girl. She grew up, and her parents grew up in Africa, and she was one of the researchers. She was a PhD. She was working on a PhD, and she said, "You have no idea. I volunteered for this. I'm so excited." She goes, "There's medicines all over Africa that can help people," and
The
that's what we
Iboga.
start investigating. So yeah, so then I get down to it was me and two SEALs, and we went down to Mexico. And actually, first we went to San Diego. We met Amber and Marcus Capone at a restaurant. And it was pretty cool because we're all looking at our shoes, and just you could see we're all super uncomfortable while being out. And these people come in and they're all like beaming, smiling, and bright. And it was like, what's with the shiny, happy people, man? Why did 6 movie stars just walk in there just like, hey, how's it going? And I'm like, yeah, it's going pretty good. Yeah, I don't even know what to say. It's going horrible. But they were cool. They were just like, you're gonna feel better. You see.
So they had already been through the treatment?
Marcus had.
Yeah.
That I know, and I don't know about the other 3 guys. A couple people that were there. They worked, and then Moose. He's one of the guys down at Mexico. So yeah, then a ranger picks you up. He was here. He was actually grew up here, Colorado Springs, and then he was in Ranger Bat. He got treated, and now he's the driver. So he picked us up, and drove us down. And Moose, he's the SEAL, the counselor guy. He's great for that. He's really a good dude, just really awesome. So they drove me down. Before that, though, I did have some counseling. I had a couple of weeks of counseling. Very good guy. He was an ex addict, and just was calm and cool. I'd call him all the time when I was flipping out. He'd talk me down, and I was really good at it. Not many people are. And then, we get down there and met Trevor, and it was just same thing. I'm just like trying to, wow, I'm out of my house, man. I'm in Mexico. I'm in Tijuana. I'm in a house. I'm about to do a psychedelics with some people I don't even know. It was, breathe it down, just, but yeah, we did Ibogaine, and it changed everything. And I just did Ibogaine, and we flew back to Stanford, and they studied us, and there were so many changes. I mean, they videoed me again in the interviews, and I was just like it happened to somebody else. Like, here, tell us about April 14th. And I was like, it was a bad day. It's just before it just completely break me down. I couldn't even barely get the words out. And now I can just tell you about it. It's not great, of course, it sucked, but I can get it out, and I can deal with it, and I can put it away, not think about it. And it all worked out, and they also saw huge changes in our brains on the fMRI. The connections were better. And it just felt better. I mean, the whole world, the 2 SEALs and I, as soon as we got back to the US, we went to San Diego and ate at this restaurant, breakfast. We just sitting there laughing and smiling at each other like, my back's to the door, man, and I am not worked about it, and man, we just went out and had like a day. You could do like a montage. We're out there golfing at Top Golf and driving go-karts and drinking, just, drinking beers and just smiling ear to ear, like you're like, I feel better. I feel like something changed. And then we went up to Stanford, got tested on all the things, and went out with the study. They weren't going to tell us anything, but you could see it on their faces, They weren't supposed to let on that there's changes, but you could see them like, look at each other a couple times and go, wow, that's a lot different. So, and then my scores are just my hand-eye coordination. I haven't had a headache. I've had maybe like 2 or 3 headaches. It's just from getting dehydrated. No more migraines. And then that's it. It cuts. You're also, the other is the big one. The big one. Not enough. It's not talked about enough. Is if you've been on the painkillers, on the opiates, your brain imprints that pain, and that's what gets you to give it the drug, right? So now it's giving you the pain, even though you're not really in pain, because it wants the drug, because you're addicted, whether you like it or not. So now all that's gone, right? And I felt so much better. I mean, just crazy. And then my wife, kids, everybody. It's just like, holy shit, the difference. Amazing. Just night and day. Now, I'm not, it's not like it's a cult or anything like that. It's just that you're still you, but all the bad just kind of seeped off. And the only follow on is we have like a group thing online, talk to some guys. It's all positive, and it's always about, hey man, I did hyperbaric treatment, or I did this treatment, and other things, good healthy things they're eating, what they're reading. These are guys that we're talking a couple of weeks ago.
Integration, man.
Yeah, and it really works. I really enjoyed it. I did it for a long time. I just didn't want to be bothering them, and let other guys have a room. And then right away, even I should read you my notes. It's just the notes during that Ibogaine thing. For me, I got like the dream ride. Not everyone does. It might suck, but mine, it was harsh and hard, and I never want to do it again. But I got to see the people I loved. I got to see the other side. Got to make peace with everything. Just shut it down, and it was just awesome. It just in a different way. Nothing else could do it. Nothing. Because I was at the doctor a few days ago, and she was telling me about SSRIs. And I said, listen, don't ever give an SSRI to a guy like me. I know you probably have met a lot of veterans, and but don't give SSRIs. She's like, but I know people that have changed their life on them. I know this woman said her whole life is changed because of it. I said, yep. But if you do that right, and 6 weeks later, he might report that to you because he's trying to get better. But 6 weeks later, there's a good 70% chance he's going to be suicidal. And I've seen it with me, and I've seen it with them. And with me, they would put it on me on it. I'd start taking it, and I'd be like, man, you get so shitty that you're like, I just, maybe I should be around. Maybe, God, why would I stay around? This sucks. And then you go, whoa, throw these away. Let's see, let's check again. So whenever a guy tells me he's taking this, he's just starting a new drug like that, I say, when did you start it? And I remember to call him. I'm like 6 weeks, I'll put it in my phone just to make sure. Just because I just haven't seen too many guys have success. I mean, I could be wrong, but I haven't met too many guys who have had success with those types of things. Whereas out of probably 3 or 4 dozen guys that I've sent, probably 40 guys I would say by now.
Really?
Only one didn't take. Some, they say, man, I might need to go back. Some are like, yeah, never. I went back. I'd say 2/3 quit drinking. I don't want to just do anything like that ever again. The rest, it's just like, yeah, I'm not 2 or 3 and I'm good. That's how it should be. I'm not drinking myself.
Not 2 or 3 bottles or cases.
Yeah. Or, I did, and I saw it on the ship too. A lot of it was just guys drinking foo-foo margaritas and stuff, and I didn't see too many guys that were hitting it that hard,
You're right. There's a lot of guys. I mean, there was a couple there I worry about, but there's also a lot of dudes that were, they were wanting to get their 15 a day, right? Because that was your limit. But
I'll
there's
never do that again. All the pressure, my wife and I were like, oh, we'll hit 15 a day, easy margaritas if I'm all day.
Yeah.
And no, I don't think
they're going to do it in 2 years. I guess I talked to Kevin Harry at Soft Week last week. They want to do it again. They said it was, the feedback was, man, we can't wait for the next one. So
I can't wait. Yeah, that was another one. I never would have gone near a boat or any of that. I couldn't be in crowds at all, at all. And now, I don't like it. I don't like if I know the mall is crowded. I'm not going. I'm just gonna work around it. I won't go. I'll go to Home Depot. I'll get up 7 o'clock and go. Just I know to work around it, and I'm better at working around it. Whereas before, I was like, I have it. Who cares? Someone would drop something in Lowe's, and yeah, I'd come to near the cashiers with cold sweat coming down. All these people looking at me like, what's going on with that guy? It's like. I like to
so
know
how you
myself.
finding these cats that need you, man? I mean, you've come back hard to talk to you, talk to your wife. You know, how's that captain that I helped get down there? How's he
He's
doing?
doing a little better. I think he's still taking the old way, and yeah, and he's got physical issues too. But he was the only one that's not. It scared him, and it's not been as beneficial as the others, And I meet guys a lot that just um
Well,
all
sometimes you just got to let it take control, and a lot of guys. Well, I know that with other psychedelics, if you don't let the medicine work and you fight it, you're just not going to have a good time, dude. It's not going to.
I've heard people do it for 24 hours,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Here,
well,
let me grab that notebook. I got to read some stuff to you.
yeah, good, good. Then I got this thing turned all the way up, man. Perfect. I just want to be able to hear him, so you have to turn me down. I had to turn it up.
Cool. So as soon as you're done, you can lift your hand or whatever, and they'll carry you to a bed, and because
How
movement.
long's the treatment last?
Mine was about 13 hours, 12 or
Oh,
13.
wow.
Some people longer. Yeah, usually it's about 12. So, the first 3 hours are pretty chaotic. You're just lying there and just really tripping. And you throw up a few times. I didn't eat a lot. The guys with me did. It went poorly. They were throwing up a lot. And I had 3 quick ones, and they have like a bowl. The last one was tie-dye colored. And I was like, oh boy, I don't want to do that again, man. Put my head back.
Is it
like,
IV or
what's that?
do you drink it, or is it IV?
It's a pill form. He's got a synthetic now that he can do, and it's a pill form, and they go by weight. So
Mm,
they start with a fire ceremony, and you write down on a piece of paper the things you want to get rid of, things you want to work on, and sit at that fire. And then he gives you one, and then he says, as you start working your way towards it, and then he'll give them as you go. There's a doctor, there's a paramedic. It's a room, just a normal room, about 20 by 10, maybe a little bigger. But and then they play bleeding tribal music,
okay.
which tends to launch you off. They made the instruments while they were on Iboga,
Wow.
and they made the music while they were on Iboga. So it's nuts, and it's really chaotic, and they're, it's like these Africans are like, over you, and you have a big mask on. The coolest thing though, as soon as I took like a third or a fourth one, and I'm starting to really feel it. And I lifted my mask and I look at the room and I put the mask down. I could see everything perfectly. I had complete recall. And I'm like, oh boy, man, this is gonna be tough. And so the first 3 hours they play this bleedy tribal music, and it's kind of chaotic, man. Your ears buzz. It's really, kind of harsh. But it could be anything, I guess, to anybody. But you just breathe. They during the pre setup, they teach you how to breathe, and you just breathe through it. Um, and then at 3 hours, she switched the music to like this really beautiful Spanish music, and it was just like, wow, all right, that's a little better, And the funniest thing about it with the tribal stuff, there was one speaker, and you feel like you're in surround, man. You feel like you're surrounded by a tribe, they're all chanting. It's
Wow.
really something. So once you put on the Spanish music, my dog came out of the wall. It was the coolest, and he was like metrochrome, like black and gray. He came up to me, jumped on my chest, and used to wake me up from nightmares. And you never cried like that. I mean, it's almost like the cartoons when the tears are flying out of their eyes. And and they got an IV, thankfully. Just, man, I mean, I probably poured out a gallon. And he went inside, went inside me, and I feel like we're like one almost, like I could feel like what he was going through when he was dying. He was still trying to protect me. So it was incredible. I mean, I so needed it. But I wrote, so is when I was done with all this, they put me in a bed and I had a notebook
And I just wrote everything down, that I can remember. And then he left I don't think they do it anymore. My laptop was in the room. So I turned it on and went on Facebook. And one of the dudes from Billy's team, right off the bat, I wrote on that Facebook, I just did this thing in Mexico. I feel awesome. I think I turned the corner. This is going to change my life. Something like that. And this dude, I get an IM. Hey, Pat, it's true. It's really, and I was like, yeah, man, this is amazing. He's like, Pat, I don't know if you remember me, and I'm like, I do remember you. And he was going right there. He decided to go. He was packed and ready to put himself away. He had everything done and prepped, and he changed his mind. He said, "You give it a shot." So he's doing awesome. I was still tripping when that happened. When I was having this conversation,
They let you have access to a computer when you're in the middle of a trip.
So
that's cool.
And then I texted my medic. I shot my medic a message and said, "Hey, man, I'm doing a lot better." And I was really angry about because my brother got from a priest and things like that. So I was really angry about it. And I was just saying, I became an atheist, or whatever you want to call it. I was angry at God. And during it, so with my medic, he's a Mormon. I say, dude, God just helped me. I just talked to him, he's like, what? It's like, I'm doing better. I'm telling you right now, man, I do believe. And it's just came by. And he was scheduled. He signed up for Stanford. So both of them signed up for Stanford. And then I called 2 more guys, and they were on the way. It's like, it works, man. Whatever it is, I don't give a shit if you think I'm crazy. I said, I just feel better. Whatever it is, it just took some shit out of me, man. Something's gone. And so I had a couple of dudes first day heading over. So anyway, here's the notes. I could see the ceiling perfectly through the blindfold, every detail. I put that on it, every detail. They said, something about I did not eat too much because it was, and then I hallucinated intensely. Someone handed me tissues. It took me a few minutes to understand why, because I was tripping so intensely. I just didn't, I didn't know I was crying at first. And then intense patterns. I was tripping, not necessarily, not scary, but not fun. Bandana. It was like a bandana color, like a bandana. And it's a DJ visited me, curled up with me, disintegrated into me. And then the next thing is a man that I shot in combat appeared in the same location where I killed him, the Tigris River. Told me that it was okay. He said, I was trying to kill you. You were a soldier, you protected him. And then my brother appeared. He said he had snapped when he killed my father. I forgave him.
Forgiveness is powerful, bro.
Appeared. My father really died on a wait list, I think. Yeah. He was a vet, and it really needed that. And he appeared. And he said, Patrick, you let it go. Just let it go.
Let it go, man.
All good over here. Let it go. It's just, I could feel it. I just need to hear it. Saw my dad. And this is pretty. I saw a small child in combat. He had a bullet hole in his head, in his forehead. I don't know who killed him, but I knew that particular instance would haunt me. I saw him, he was sitting there, this car got lit up, and I saw it. I knew I was not going to see it the rest of my life. And it's like, I already had nightmares, but like that's the turbo, and I just wanted to, find that dude, Anyway, I don't know who killed him, but I knew that particular incident would haunt me. He was an angel. So stuff was flying around my head, and it was kind of wild. And I realized it was an angel, and he was about 2 feet tall, and he's just looking at me and smiling, and there was no bullet hole. It was the kid. And I was like, it's the kid. I mean, through the blindfold, he just was flying around the room, and it was amazing. That's my new memory. I don't have that memory of seeing him anymore like that. I always have it seeing him like that, and it really helps. So there was a couple like that. I saw Billy and Ricky Wall. And, you know, I saw him the night before, you know, so like the night we were drinking beer and, you know, and then like with Ricky and Paul, I saw Ricky the night before he got killed. You know, I said, he stayed up all night with me, give me IVs and everything. And I said, hey, Ricky, thanks for if you stayed up all night with me. So we met it, bro. You know, he kept doing that, like making me laugh, you know, like, and the same with Paul. He was just give me that smile. He used to make me laugh in class, you know. Fergie was like bitching at us, you know, and he'd give me a look and make me laugh, you know. And it just made it okay because it's my new memories. I don't see him the way the last time I saw him, you know. So it's it just fixed it. It just made it better. And I don't know how it works, and I don't know if it works for everybody that way. But either way, I got the good ride. I know guys that have just this crazy trip and then they're better, you know, and they're like, I didn't understand any of it, but I'm better because the last thing that it did, because all these people were popping up on the wall, almost in space and coming out to me and talking. And last thing though, that was pulling away from me. And I was like, no, no. And that's what I heard the God voice use. He said, you've done enough of that. And now we're going to make you better. And my brain started to tingle. And I was like, it was beautiful. I mean, it was about 3 hours of that, just lying there. And like my brain was getting massaged. It felt so good. It felt like the evil was going out. Like the scene in the Green Mile when he blows the evil out. You know, he sucks the evil out of you and blows it out. I was just imagining it to come out of my head like that. And man, and next thing I know, it stuck, you know. So they say after that you have 6 weeks neuroplasticity. So we're down there a day or two after the best massage I've ever had in my life. I just never liked massages. I got some people look at bones and things, but this dude just knew my shit was broke. He could, you know, other masseuses or stuff, they'll be like, oh, that big scar, you know, that feels great. You know? Yeah, that's great.
Ouch.
So, yeah, just everything was right again, you know, and then the same with the pain. Even though my back was fixed, they put in the titanium, I would still feel like I was in pain. And now, none. Like, it killed it. It's just, I get normal back pain if I'm bending over all day or digging or whatever. But otherwise, it's just, it's normal. And you see how bad the damage is those opiates do, you know? So yeah. And then once the Stanford thing, I came home. I did a few days at Stanford and came home, and my wife could not believe it. She wanted to talk to somebody, and luckily Vets has people there. She's like, "There's how did this happen?" And so they have wives groups, which really helps. Actually, Amber Capone gets in there with them and chats with them. They're awesome people, and there's not many like them in the world, you know. But it's just.
They're helping a lot of folks, bro. And you're helping a lot of folks, man. I mean, it's, you know, it's, you know, I still talk to a lot of people that don't know it exists, you know, and if we get calls where there's like, you know, those guys getting ready to eat a 9, man, I call you, you know, whatever, you know, I just, you know, cause they just don't know. They don't know they can be fixed. Or maybe it's not perfect, but that you can be helped, that there's hope. And everything that's coming out of these studies on Ibogaine is just amazing. And same thing with, you know, these ayahuasca. Not a lot of people studying ayahuasca, but the same amount of people coming out are going, this helped me. And that's why, you know, making it available, not in Mexico, is so, you know, important, because you're talking about 40 dudes that you sent. That's 40 dudes that you saved. 40 guys that are back with their families or back with themselves or back in life, contributing, working, not, you know, stoned or, you know, or drugged up or in, you know, in suffering in silence and thinking about taking their lives. I mean, you are doing an amazing job with this, and it's important that your experience, because that's what resonated with me when you came on the boat. You know, like, Bruce, I need to talk to you. You know, I heard that, you know, you know about psychedelics and this and that. Let me tell you about what I went through, and your enthusiasm and your passion. But it wasn't just being an evangelist, dude, you seriously were interested in letting me know how this helped you. And your wife came over, she goes, and she's pointing at you. She's like, yep, all this, and you can't, you can't deny that. I didn't know a lot of your past, that you were telling me on the boat, but, what you're helping to spread awareness of needs to happen. The SEALs are way ahead of our community. And then we have the problem where a lot of foundations associated with our community won't cover this, right? They won't.
Yeah. Yeah.
The GBF won't touch it. I think Task Force DAGA would help. I'm still making my rounds to the foundations to see who will cover these things so that we can say, all right, where's the money, right? So when we have a guy in need, a lot of our bros just don't have $8,000, to go down there, right? And then, did you do the DMT, the 5-NMEO?
Yeah. So
you did that as well.
I thought I was fine, and but then Trevor called. We're friends, and Trevor was like, "Listen, Pat, I think you should come down and do this 5 thing because they're going to pay for it, because you did." He goes, "I think you need to finish this," and I was like, "All right," because the dude didn't. He wasn't wrong last time, and
Right.
and man, that stuff was scary. But it was 13 minutes or whatever it was, and just
Not a
to
long
see other
time,
guys
man.
and hear the war come out of a guy when he's on it, that'll rock you to your core. Is to hear someone do the feral scream, and then it's something shitty coming out of them, And man, and they wake up and they're just like a little kid. You just want to hug everybody. You're like, I'm back. I'm good. And that's how I was. Moose, as soon as that, I thought I'm okay. Man, I did that EMT and then sat in the chairs. And Moose just put his arm around me. And I, holy shit, like an hour. Just my eyes poured out. I felt just the rest of the shit come out, the rest of the war,
Mm.
And when I got back, man, the driving thing was really bad for me before. I had to stop driving. Get back after Ibogaine, I could drive, and that was fine. But man, after DMT, it was like, look, just get in the right lane, find something nice to listen to.
You got to put on my turn signal.
Yeah, it was great. Man, you haven't driven like that since I was like 17, where you feel like going on a drive. But now, like after it's been a couple of years, I have to avoid traffic. Not like that bad. I mean, I'm fine with it to a point, but it will put me up. Just because in Baghdad, they would set up the fake IED, and then when you would slow down and stop, that's when they'd hit you. And it still gets me up a little bit. And I know
driving in Baghdad, man, when we were there, God, I hated that. The only thing worse than that was Riyadh, for crying out loud, and that's not even a combat zone. Hated driving in that town. But no,
like Cairo 87.
Oh, Cairo's a mess, dude. I wouldn't even drive in Cairo. I was there with my son, man, and I'd take taxis, dude. But even then, you just white knuckling the whole time, man.
White knuckle. It's just there was no rules whatsoever,
None. 9 lanes of traffic on a 3-lane street. It's like donkeys. Like, what is going on here, dude? And nobody gets killed. That's the crazy thing is nobody gets killed.
First time out of the country. I was first time out of the country. I was like, wow, that's a shocker, And
yeah.
I think all of it. I think if I never see another country like that again, I'll be happy.
Yeah, well, you're living in a good town, man. So how do people, that are listening right now, right? They've listened to your story, right? A lot of combat, a lot of commitment, a lot of service, a lot of dedication to our country, right? Like it a lot. Like you're one of our heroes, bro. You've been through a lot, just like all of us, right? Nobody likes to pat themselves on the back. I got it. But, you paid a price. You paid a price for that service. And now, you fought your way back just like the fighter that you are. You didn't give up on your family. You didn't give up on yourself, bro. And you are, you're here. You're back. You're on this. How do people find out about this? I mean, is it vets? Is that where they go? Or is, to find out more?
Yep. Vets.org. So it's Veterans Exploring Treatment Solutions. And I think now there's probably 5 or 6 different organizations doing it. Doing different things. And it ends up with Trevor at Ambio Clinic. If you want to skip vets and go to Ambio Clinic, and that's Trevor Miller, Millar.
I love the guy. I can't say enough about him. He saves people all the time. And he's just, once you meet him, you just get it. He's there to help you. He's not, um, so that's also as an organization, amazing. A counselor can really help with the breathing. And even just that, it's not just send you right to Mexico. If they have something lesser, they gauge where you're at. On see, maybe this will help, or maybe this other treatment, a local treatment or something like that. Because if you don't need to send them to Mexico, you don't need to. Me, within a few minutes of talking to a guy, I know whether he needs to go or not, or where he's at. And it's just crazy because just guys would call me. And I had 13 friends commit suicide over all these years. 2 best friends, my best buddy in the military, my best civilian buddy. And I couldn't talk either of them down. And now I just recognize it so much better. And even with other people, like I've had people say, hey, man, I was going to kill myself last night. And I say, I know, because I was going to get, it's just whether you like it or not, and whether you want to hear it or not, you're considering things because you just you don't want to ruin everybody else's life. Or you feel like you are, you feel like you just can't get out. You're never going to come up and out of this. So then once I was up and out of it, I think I was well known enough to where guys were like, I knew that guy in the war. He loved the war. How the hell would he get crazy? So he's not a pussy and I'm not a pussy. Let's go. And that's what it was too, is guys were afraid because they thought they'd be judged, and you would be. And we saw it when guys asked for help back in the day, they'd be judged and not well. And some of the baddest dudes I know, some of the baddest dudes in 10th group call me, they had trouble. It's not natural to shoot gun down a bunch of people. It's not. It is much as, and then after you gun down a bunch of people, you go to the chow and people are patting you on the back, and it's what we dreamed of as kids to be the guy. But then when you're the guy, you go, oh, wow, man, I'm not sure about all this. This is kind of tough
price to pay, man.
Yeah. And that's when it works on it. And then that they can get through. The VFWs and the American Legion, they just gave them bars and they drank off the PTSD. But I think with our generation, there's more head injuries. And I think that's the big one that's killing guys. Not so much the PTSD. We have friends, but it's that one that the friend can't face, and that's the head injuries.
Yeah, I do believe that. Repetitive blast exposure, TBIs, IEDs, that all contributes to not just psychological trauma, but you got physiological damage that it's not healed. And I don't know what Iboga has done. I know that these psychedelics make the brain work, and it makes the brain build, new ways of communicating, new ways of bypassing scarring and damage. And I think that's another aspect of these drugs that's so appealing, is that they're helping the brain heal on top of getting rid of all this moral baggage that we carry from our childhood and carry from our military experience and what we've done to other human beings, right? We got to get through all that. And once you can learn to forgive and love yourself, man, I mean, you are on the way. And I think treatments like this, for guys that were in your position, like I've had my challenges, nothing close to what you've been through, bro. I mean, I've fallen apart. I had to put myself back together, but it wasn't at your level. And this is what there's tiers of of treatment. And I think at your stage where you were, when people are saying, I don't want to be here no more, and people love them and we got to keep them here. I mean, it's good to know that there's something like this that's available to these men and women that are just done, and I think you're testimony to that, bro. And it's awesome.
And, with the answer too, though, is like, with me, it was like, I just want to go up on a mountain and stay there, just be away from everybody and not ruin everybody's life, and it sucks. And it wasn't me, we always had the big parties, we had battalion sized parties at our house and security. And
10th group, bro. That's what the boat was. I think the boat did a lot for a lot of guys, just finding each other on that boat and saying, hey, dude, it's been like 20 years, right? Or whatever it is,
Sure has. And that's what I liked about it most. I think just as you walked around, you saw dudes you hadn't seen in 10, 12 years.
and you just fall right into it right away. Start calling each other
Amen.
names.
Like it was like 2 weeks ago, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And
Well,
that was, and it was, and I met a bunch of guys out there who had gone, and you could see how much better they were doing. And yeah, I was really glad with that. That was awesome. Cause I went to the one here for a little bit, walked around a little bit, but there was a lot of people. I was just, I wasn't comfortable downtown. So yeah, I stopped in for maybe an hour and a half and then headed home. You just do the Irish goodbye every time,
yeah. Well, there was no safer boat on the planet that day with 800 Green Berets on, right?
Yeah.
Ain't nobody messing with that boat.
My wife and I just had a great time throughout. And,
so many couples did. My wife and I had a blast, dude. We met some new friends, and yeah, we'll do it again, dude. Well, bro, thank you so much for coming on the show, brother. This has been an amazing journey, and I've always respected you. I appreciate your service, your time, but your devotion to yourself and your family is so cool, man. And I think so many people need to hear this, man. So we're gonna push this out. I'm not gonna be pushing you out other than when I get a phone call and somebody needs to hear about Pat Flatley. I'm not gonna advertise you all over the place unless you want, but we will push out vets.org. But you tell me, where, we can help you get where you need to go in your mission in life, right? As an advocate, obviously, get you on some speaking tours or whatever it is, man, anything, because these are the stories that resonate with people. We got to start funding this stuff, and helping vets and these other organizations pay for this, because these guys, when it comes down to, we all signed the line, we all did our time, we all did our job, and we all got hurt. And this country should be covering us for that, dude. You shouldn't have to spend 13 years to get your 100%. You shouldn't be having 11 TBIs and combat tours and then a history of subconcussive trauma and get disability from migraines. I mean, we are overlooking, so much stuff. And then all the people that aren't here, bro, we need to go back and look and see what their military service did to their brains. It's too late, but we can look at their DD-214s and we can make some really strong, all
the way back to, from the SIF days on. I remember my first door charge in SOT school. I was behind the shield and I went, wow. And
back in my day, we didn't even have shields, bro. The shield was the number one guy.
yeah, exactly. And I think that was the only time I'd had a shield. I think that was the first one at SOT, and then never again. And you're like, it's almost always first, number one man. You're like,
dude.
And I want people to put that. I love being one man. I'm sorry.
The guys that like to eat the charge, they were always the number one guy. You couldn't keep them from the front of that stack, dude. They just loved being up there, man. We all knew.
But you check those dudes all the way back to like 90s. Some of the dudes that were calm, cool, and all of a sudden, after their SIF time, they're kind of angry. I saw it a lot, and I've had falling out with guys I was friends with, just because we had a big argument over something stupid. And then years later, especially after Ibogaine, I would call or email. Look, I don't know how we fell out, but blaming me too, and just we should talk. And just because you see it too, and guys that didn't go to Iraq, they got out just before. It's 5-6 years of door charges. Yep. You need to be watching for them too. So obviously they could get the same or just as bad an injury from a door charge as they did in combat.
Well, in the end, it's still a trauma, man. If they were in a SIF and they did, SOT, they were the range safety officer or the master breacher for, cripes, taking out, boxes of AT4s and shooting them till your brains are flowing out of your ears or, chucking grenades because you got to burn them up, all that stuff, dude, I
remember somebody saying, how many AT4s have you shot in a day? I'm like, could be 2 or 3. Yeah, it was like a truckload one day. It was me and 4 dudes. Get rid of all those rockets now.
Don't take them back. Yeah,
I didn't think twice about it. Of course, double hearing protection. But man, I went to the range of 6 months ago, and they were shooting AT4s, and I stayed about 200 yards back, and I was still like, oh yeah, all right. That explains a lot.
They can keep those things, man. Hey, folks. Another amazing episode of Broken Brains, man, with another American hero, Pat Flatley. Cannot thank you enough for spending the time with us today. Look, I remember the Summit on Repetitive Brain Health is September 3rd and 4th of this year here in Tampa, Southdale Mabry Road, 1.5 mile away from MacDill at the Special Forces Team House. We've got an amazing lineup of speakers and people and attendees, food, a little bit of drinking and networking. We're going to have those MAC awards for, given out this year. Very well coveted. We're looking for suggestions for who should get those. And don't forget, go to our website, get that free book, Become Informed on Repetitive Head Impacts, and how to protect your children, how to look after yourself if you played a lot of contact sports, and download our app on the Apple and Google store, our Head Smart app. So like us, friend us, support us, spend us around, man. We're here to help people. And the more people that know about this issue and hear stories of guys like Pat, the more awareness and change that we can make in addressing these issues. So thank you so much. Bruce Parkman, your host. You only got one brain. Take care of it because it's all you are. Take care, and we'll see you next time on Broken Brains. Thank you.